As I'll ever be. That's what I'm talking about today, is about spirituality of aging. And Methuselah, who according to the Bible lived to be 969 years old. And he's the great example. There's no reason that we can't make that decision to be 969 years if we choose. He died the week before the Great Flood. So I think that's very interesting. He saw it coming and decided to get out of there. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I want to live to be 969 years, because what I found out from my long-lived mother and my long-lived grandmother, that they outlived everybody else, and it was a little lonely for them. They didn't have friends, and they didn't have folks that shared their history. My sister and I were around, but we only had like half of my mother's life history, and it was lonely. She had friends that were younger and vital, but there wasn't that connection with her history. So I don't know that I would want to live to be 969 years, unless everybody else that I know lived that long too. So there's many theories about the causes of aging, and some believe that longevity is determined at the moment of your conception, that it is genetically connected. Then there's others that say that there's a limited number of times that the genes can divide, and that's what happens to us. But, free radicals, that causes our genes and our DNA and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really matter what causes our aging. And despite Methuselah's example, we're living in a culture and a cultural belief system that says we become frail and physically weak, and our mental capacity is diminished as we age. But here's what's interesting. What age do we become old? That's all very left up to interpretation, and it's all very subjective. What I've discovered is the older I get, the older I believe old to be. The older I get, the older I believe old to be. I had this story I wanted to share with you. My mother and I, my mother was 30 years older than me, and she was 30 when I was born. She and I were out in the front yard visiting with some neighbors, and the little neighbor girl came up. She was 16, 17, and she said to me, "Your mother and daughter?" And I said, "Yes." Mm-hmm. "Why do you ask?" "'Cause you're both so old." And I looked her in the eye and I said to her, "I want you always to remember that you said that. There will be a time when you regret having said that to me." So, our religion, religious science, the philosophy of it gives us an opportunity to reframe the belief about aging and the aging process. We can believe that, like fine wine, we get better and better with age, or like a peach, we become sweeter as we ripen. We can believe that. We can believe that, like Mark Twain says, our wrinkles are indications of where smiles have been. Mm-hmm. Our face is a map of our life, and it's up to us to make sure that the map is filled with laugh lines and smile lines and peace and love. A normal human goes through 7 cycles of life. That's different stages. We have the infant, we have childhood, we have teens and young adults, and then adults, and then the middle age crises, and then the elder. And each stage has a particular learning and growth task. And an elder is someone who has authority because of their age and because of their wisdom. So Betty Friedan said, she was the one that wrote The Feminine Mystic, and she was 85 when she died, but she said this, and I love it. Aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength. Let me repeat that. Aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength. I think culturally we have missed coming to the place of appreciation about the gifts of maturity, the gifts of becoming an elder in our society. And I think it's time that we recapture that. There seems to be some sort of cultural humiliation of aging, when in fact it should be cultural triumph and triumphant success of aging. Because as we become more and more mature, we really are more successful at life. If we were not, we wouldn't be here. So by the time we become an elder, we've stripped away all of the superfluous and the unnecessary and the excess of our lives. What we come to is the crystalline essence of our being, the truth really of who we are, of our essential self. And our values become more crystallized, while our intelligence becomes more fluid, allowing us to call upon many different experiences, proficiencies, and to call upon situations and circumstance that we can put together in more creative and original ways, because we have so many life experiences to draw from. So as we grow older, we really become more successful at life and living our lives. Ernest Holmes said, in The Art of Life, he said, life is infinite energy coupled with limitless creative imagination. It is the invisible essence and substance of every visible form. Its nature is goodness, truth, wisdom, and beauty, as well as energy and imagination. Our highest satisfaction comes from a sense of conscious union with this invisible life. All human endeavor is an attempt to get back to first principle, to find such an inward wholeness that all sense of fear, doubt, and uncertainty vanish. As we grow more and more mature, as we become elderly, old, whatever that is, we are able to understand that we are essentially connected with the divine. And because there's only one thing, God, in all, there's only one thing, and that one thing literally lives and moves and has its being in us as us. We can actually draw energy and vitality from the world around us. We breathe in energy. We take energy through our food. And because it's a reciprocal universe, it's our job to give back to the universe through our love and through our wisdom and through our knowledge, but most especially through our love. As we become more mature, our love becomes more pure. There's no such thing as unconditional love. Saying that creates conditions. As we grow older, wiser, more connected with our essential essence, we understand that love is love. Eric Fromm says, love is the active concern for the growth and well-being of those that we love. Our love and our willingness to give back, our understanding of our place in the universal concept is more and more pure. Deborah Gordon, who is the wife of our spiritual leader, Ken Gordon, she's the senior minister for spiritual living in Kelowna, Canada. I never know how to say that. She says, we need to examine our beliefs and attitudes about aging, and unless we do it, and hopefully change them, change our beliefs and attitudes about aging, we can tend to fall back into our old habitual thinking of loss and disintegration, which of course becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We do not have to become weak. We don't have to become frail. We don't have to become less than acute mentally. There's a woman that goes to Ollie, Vi is her name, and Vi is 94 years old. She is just astonishing, and I can't explain to you just by saying she's astonishing. You just have to meet her. But she says that the trick to life is to just keep moving. And that's really, I think, such an important point. Not just keep moving physically, but keep moving mentally, to keep exploring, to keep examining, to encourage self to have new interests, new beliefs, new ideas, to keep moving forward in our belief systems, moving forward in our availability for life. Deborah continues, the good news is it doesn't have to be in the way it doesn't have to be the way it's always been. And as the human race gathers more and more awareness that our thoughts and feelings pave the way for our experiences, we can choose to age creatively and with greater expression. So when was the last time you did something for the first time? Can you remember? When was the last time you did something for the first time? That's a challenge, isn't it? That is what causes us to become and stay fresh and alert and alive, experiencing new things, experiencing new thoughts and new ideas. I want to remind you that Charles Fillmore at the age of 94, said this. I've quoted him before, but I love this quote, and it sums up the whole essence of life as we move into a greater and greater richness of age. At 94, he said, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me alone. Sizzle, fired up and ready to go at 94. There's so much opportunity for doing the thing for the first time. There's so much opportunity for staying excited about life, enthusiastic about life. Ernest Holmes said, never limit your view of life by any past experience. Never limit your view of life by any past experience. There's always an opportunity to explore and to grow, and to take the energy of the universe, to breathe it in, and to assimilate it, and to breathe it out, to give love in fresh new ways, to explore opportunities in fresh new ways. When was the last time you did something for the first time? The answer to that should be yesterday. The answer to that should be, I'm going to do it this afternoon. The answer to that should be every day. I do something for the first time. I explore new opportunities. I expand my wisdom. I expand my knowledge. I expand my joy. And I extend my love. Ernest says, life is not something to be endured. It's something to be lived in joy and fullness without limit. That's a wonderful example. Ernest Holmes lived his life fully and richly until the last day. He's a prime example. I have wonderful examples of aging. My mother and my grandmother were both, they lived until their 90s. And they were both vigorous and vital, interested. They were cocky and smarty-pantsy and joyful and snappy and lived life. Then I had my paternal grandmother, who when my granddad died, she was 63, I think. She lived until she was 90. No, she existed until she was 90. She stopped living at 63. So she had more than 30 years of stagnation and misery and making everyone else miserable around her. So I have examples of both. Vitality and vigor and joy and spunkiness and victimhood and sadness and woe is me, Eeyore belief system. But see, here's the thing. I have a choice. I can make a decision about how I'm going to do it. And so do each of us. We each get to decide how we're going to live our lives. And no matter how old you are, deciding to make a choice to do something for the first time, to expand your life, to be in enthusiasm, to sizzle with enthusiasm. It's a choice that we make every day, every moment. choose to love each one of you in new, fresh, expansive ways. And the way that I can do that is discover more and more interesting things about you. Everybody's got a story. And just exploring folks' story is so exciting. So I challenge you today and this week to do something for the first time. And keep it up. Methuselah was an example, just like Jesus was an example. If it's possible for one person, it's possible for every person. And you know, the more and more I'm exploring of the Bible, the more and more I'm discovering about the Bible, the more I'm beginning to believe that maybe it's not just a metaphor, that those stories really had a lot of truth to them. So, if I don't live to be 969 years, maybe I'll live to be 696 years. I love you all. Namaste. So, Kate and Steve, would you join me as we hold the consciousness? As I settle into that place within me that is connected with all that is, I allow my awareness of the vastness of the universe and the vastness of God to expand. I know that no matter how I think, what I believe, it's still limited. But I can push the boundaries of my understanding. I can expand the boundaries of my belief in possibilities. I can celebrate the possibilities of life, ever expanding, ever growing. I can explore the possibilities of joy expanding and exploring life. I can expand my belief in the power of love and what love can accomplish. And I can expand my definition of it. I can expand my feeling of love, which is creative. At this moment in my heart, I recall and think of those that are not with us in this space, this place today. And I expand the possibilities of blessing them, of touching them in a deep way. I think of Dick, and I expend my love and my sweet understanding. Susan, John, Diane, Kenny, Robert and Terry, Chris, you take a moment. You call to mind someone that you want to extend love to, someone you want to share joy with. The possibilities of blessings are endless. And I know that within God, all things are possible. Within God, the good is expressing right now, this moment, whether I understand it or not. So with gratitude, I celebrate it all with a sizzling enthusiasm for good and joy. I invite you to join me as we anchor it and declare it done.